Hello again, everyone. This is Pastor Jamie, and we're back for another episode of our Worship, Grow, Follow podcast, and we're excited about this. And today we are especially excited, and really we're honored. I have the privilege of getting to know the president of the SBC, Pastor Clint Pressley, and we got to be acquaintances while I was in a cohort with the North American Mission Board, and Pastor Clint led that cohort. And man, Clint Pressley, I'm so glad you'd be willing to sit down for a little while for this podcast. How are you today?
Man, thank you so much. Thanks for having me, Jamie. I'm glad to be here. Doing good. Just like everybody else that's leading in the church, you've got stuff going on at Christmas time. We got a whole bunch of that going on, but very thankful to have it going on.
Well, man, I'm so excited to have you because we have some other connections. I know you pastored in Alabama for a season.
Right.
The wonderful.
Right. I love Alabama.
Well, thank you. Alabama loves you.
We had a great time there. It's probably one of the maybe the most fun time of our entire ministry was down at Dolphin Way.
Really? I want to talk about that in just a few minutes, but it's funny how the Lord has brought another connection. Jake Goforth, our new Minister of Missions and Media, also served with you. And so I know he's excited to see his pastor back on the big screen here today.
Look, now, if Jake is any worth to you, all of that came from my mentorship in his life.
Okay, duly noted. It did not take long for us to get there.
That's what I told Jamie already. So.
Okay. Yeah. All right, good.
Well, Clint, listen, you are known as a lot of things in our convention. You're known, of course, as SBC President. You're known as a wonderful pastor. I know you've served our denomination as a trustee, but I want to go back. I just want our audience to know a little bit more than just your public face now. So take us back. Tell me again, where are you from? Where'd you grow up? Tell me a little bit about your spiritual background.
Okay, yeah, I grew up here in Charlotte, North Carolina, and grew up in a liberal Presbyterian church. Never really heard the gospel. Not a PCA church, but PCUSA. They don't really believe anything. And so I heard the Apostles' Creed, and that was about it. They made a mistake and hired a conservative intern youth pastor for a summer. And he came to our church, and we went to summer camp. I was 11 years old, and he shared the gospel with me.
Wow.
And I got saved. I mean, I believed it and trusted Christ. And he said, okay, now you're a Christian. You got to start reading the Bible and praying. So I didn't have a Bible. My grandmother had one of those hardback living Bibles, this kind of the Bible. And so she gave that to me. And I started reading and praying. And we stayed there 4 more years. But I was pretty clear that we needed to be at a different church. I was 15. I felt like I wanted to be a preacher.
Wow.
And but I didn't know what kind of preacher I wanted to be. We ended up visiting some friends in Virginia that were the kind of Baptists that made you go to church with them if you were staying in their house over the weekend.
Sure.
So I went to First Baptist Church, Roanoke, Virginia. The first Baptist church I ever went into. I was 15 years old and heard a Baptist preacher preach, and I knew that's what I want to do. I didn't know what those Baptists believe. I didn't know anything about him. He was standing up there yelling at me, and I thought, that's what I want to do. So we joined the Baptist church in Charlotte. And when I was in the 11th grade, became a Baptist, and this is the very same church that I'm pastoring right now, Hickory Grove Baptist Church.
Man, Clint, that's an amazing story.
Yeah, made it back home to pastor my home church.
That's wonderful. Just in that there's so many aspects, you could think about the goodness of God, that you went off to that summer camp. And this guy was a summer intern, you said.
Right. He wasn't even a full-time staff member.
But aren't you thankful he was faithful to preach the gospel?
No, not only that. He years later, he would join this church, be one of my deacons, and I would preach his funeral.
My goodness. The Lord was so kind to you. Now tell me, I'm just curious, you said First Baptist Roanoke, first time you heard a Baptist preacher. Do you remember who that pastor was?
Yeah, I was afraid you were going to say that.
Well, it's okay.
Yeah, he was actually a well-known pastor, and ended up resigning from there and staying in the church. I can't remember his name, though.
That's fine. But he had an impact on you. That sermon latched on.
Right on.
Tell me a little bit more about that sense of calling. You were feeling some of that early?
Honestly, oh, yeah, it's all I've ever wanted to do. I mean, I went all through middle school and high school wanting to be a preacher. And when I graduated Independence High School here in Charlotte, I went off to Wofford College, a small 1AA school in Spartanburg, South Carolina, and I played football there. And then went off to seminary. My preacher here said, hey, look, there's only one conservative. Go to Southwestern. So I went to Southwestern, and that's where I met my wife at Southwestern Seminary. And I was not very good at school at the time. And so I ended up quitting school and started pastoring when I was 23. Been married 6 weeks. We moved to Mississippi. There was this desperate church there that, I don't know, 30 people or so voted me in. And I didn't know the term bivocational, but I started working, driving a dump truck, substitute teaching, coaching football, and pastoring. And pretty soon I realized I don't know what I'm doing. So that church was 140 miles north of New Orleans Baptist Theological Seminary. So I started back to school. I would drive down Tuesday through Friday, drive down to school, go to class, and drive home every afternoon. And I did that for 3 years, and that's how I got my Master's of Divinity from New Orleans.
I got you. Back up a little bit for me. You went to Southwestern. Okay. What years? I was there 91 to 92. When were you there?
Yeah, I graduated college in 91, and so we moved out there. I moved out there in August of 91.
Okay, you and I were there at the same time.
The same time.
How about that? Do you have many memories about Southwestern?
Man, I really don't. I got out there, and I was not very good at. I'd been living in an athletic dorm. I was not very good at school, and so I started working full time, and then I pretty soon met Connie and wanted to get married. I wanted to make a living, and school kind of took a back burner. And then an opportunity came at this rural church in Mississippi, not far from where her mom and dad lived. That's why we ended up in Mississippi, and that sort of started my pastoral career.
Now, you did several things like a lot of guys. Our generation, it seems like we would work 2, 3, 4, 5 jobs at a time so we could do ministry. You mentioned, though, dump truck. I want to confess the vision of you driving a dump truck. Not one I expected to conjure up today.
Look, when I was living in Lincoln County, Mississippi, and they were paying me $150 a week, and I could stay in the parsonage, and they said, now you can make a living doing whatever. I would help those farmers haul in some of that silage. I couldn't drive a tractor. They wouldn't let me do that, but I could drive the dump truck. So I did a bunch of that.
I love it. Did you have on a vest, a 3-piece suit in the dump truck?
No, I probably had on one time when they were hauling hay, they told me, look, I never hauled any hay. They said, you just wear your pair of workout shorts and a tank top. And so I did. And, it ate me up so bad. They just would torture me like that with that kind of stuff. But so I always had to learn the hard way.
Well, I'll tell you, I have fond memories of Southwestern, but like you, I don't have a lot of memories. Ashley and I got married. We moved to Southwest. Let's see, we got married the week after we graduated. I think a month later we moved to Fort Worth. She got a job first. I worked at the seminary. I had a blue shirt. And anyway.
I worked for TexPac.
Okay. Good deal. I enjoyed the classes that I had, but I sensed a call to missions there. So we relocated to Beeson Divinity School.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But tell me a little bit more about Connie. You met Connie. She was at Southwestern?
Yes, she graduated Mississippi State and went to Southwestern and was wrestling with a call to missions. And, wrestled with that all the way through our courtship. And she grew up a Baptist pastor's daughter. So she understood the ins and outs of kind of church and ministry, that sort of thing. And, we started dating, and pretty soon, I asked her to marry me, and she agreed. And, man, we got married, and it was a short time after that. It was literally 6 weeks, and we moved to the field, and we're pastoring a church.
Wow. I would imagine, though, what a blessing to have a pastor's daughter helping you begin to navigate your first ministry position.
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, because I didn't know how to do a deacon's meeting. I didn't know how to baptize. I didn't know how to moderate a meeting. I didn't know I had to join the church after I became the pastor. I was a pastor a year and a half before I joined the church. I didn't know I had to join the church.
You're not sure you're going to like that pastor. I don't blame you.
Right. You don't ever know. And not only that, my wife's disposition, just dispositionally, we are so different that she's real even keeled, real calm, and has been, just such a great help over the last 33 years.
Man, I'm glad to hear that. I did make a comment about your dressing, and that's not your Thanksgiving dressing. You know, something else you're known for, brother. You are a snappy dresser. Have you
So let me tell you where that came from.
Yeah, tell me.
Let me tell you where that came from. There are two places. One in seminary. When I started back to New Orleans, I wanted to get serious about study. So I got real serious and we're making good grades. And anytime I would go and take a test, I would dress up in a suit on test day, and roll in on test day in a suit. And I would sign the top of that test. I would put, instead of my name at top, I would put the word key, because this test is perfect. You could use it to get. So I was still learning some things, but then when I got started pastoring, I was still wearing like a flat top haircut from playing football.
Sure.
And I was a meathead and didn't want to be one. And I didn't want to be perceived as one. And I was also real young. Even for your first church, I was 23, and I was trying to garner some kind of respect, I think. And so then it just became easy to do. Sure. Now it's just a uniform. You don't have to have any kind of fashion sense. If you got a dark suit and a white shirt and a tie, you're off to the races.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate your snappiness. I admire that. Where do you buy your clothes, Clint? Do you have a tailor locally?
Man, all over the place. Shirts and ties. You try to. I actually need some more ties. But anyway, they're all over the place. And then suits will be various stores. If you find a good deal or one that fits, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Tell me about your shoes. I'm on a shoe kick myself. I'm only buying vintage dress shoes now. Man,
that's some of those old Florsheim. Is that what you're buying?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, I knew it. I knew that's what you were doing. I like an Allen Edmonds shoe. That's about all I wear.
Okay.
And if I'm wearing jeans, it'll be a pair of good boots. But with a suit is an Allen Edmonds cap toe or a wingtip.
Okay, that'll work. That'll work.
Yeah.
Run me down a little bit, if you don't mind. Thank you for telling us about your early years, your marriage. I would love to hear a little bit more about your pastoral experience. I think I told you Alabama Baptist is trying to make an effort to call out the called. We are seeing the dearth of pastors coming along, so many churches that are struggling to find staff positions and pastors. They're going months and months. So I want to kind of hang out here for a little bit. But tell me, you pastored that church in Mississippi for how long while you finished at New Orleans?
So I actually moved churches while I was still in seminary. So I was at a church in Brookhaven, Mississippi for almost 3 years, and then went to a church south and west of there, and outside of Macomb, Mississippi. I was there 3 years, and that's where I finished seminary. And really, in those two churches are where you learn almost everything about doing ministry in a church.
Yeah.
You don't have to have experience at a large church to learn how to do ministry there. You just need to be in a church, because you'll get every bit of knowledge. Once you get enough people in a room, you're going to learn everything you need to know about church right there. So I learned that at those two churches, and you also learn some things about not taking things for granted. If you're the only pastor, in my first 7 years, I was. You cut on and cut off the lights, you turn the heat on, you mow the grass. I've dug graves. I did the whole thing.
Sure.
And you learn not to take that junk for granted. And so when by the Lord's kindness, if you happen to be somewhere where you're not having to do that as much, you end up being a little more thankful. But when it comes to calling out the called, I think that is a great thing Alabama Baptists are doing, because it's not just Alabama, it's Mississippi, it's North Carolina. We have a lack of young men showing up to preach. I think there's a young man problem universally, but it's showing up. We're seeing a lot of it when it comes to the ministry.
Yeah. You said something really interesting. If I can go back, you talked about if you'll be in the church long enough, you're going to learn the lessons you need for ministry. You don't have to be in a big church. And my sense is that some of those that are coming along now feel like they've got to get bigger. They want to be at a larger place.
Yep.
And let's talk just a little bit more about that. Your notion that if you're in the church, you're going to learn some important lessons. It doesn't matter the size.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you're doing ministry with church and the people in the church, they're going to have problems and issues. You're going to be in discipleship. You're going to learn how to preach. You're going to learn how to serve. You're going to learn how to deal with difficult people. You're going to learn how to be a peacemaker. You're going to learn how to provide leadership. You're going to learn how to be patient. All of those things they're going to show up, and those are the characteristics you're going to need regardless of the size of the church. And the model that I accidentally ran up on for myself that I would commend to others is finding a church, any church that will let you preach and will tolerate it for a little bit and give you a field to do some work.
Yeah.
Man, do that. I don't think that you have to go to some large church and go there as an intern and then kind of work your way up. I think another good route is, man, there's so many good churches in the state of Alabama that right now don't have a pastor that will pay you a living wage, give you a house to live in, and give you a chance to do ministry. And that's all we really want to do. And I wish the guys would take advantage of all the opportunities in front of them.
So one of the things I would say I've observed as I talk to some younger guys, there's the mindset that, unfortunately that age-old thing between small church, big church, a lot of guys feel like perhaps a more normative-sized church is the place where they're going to struggle more, where they're not going to learn as much, and they're eager to get bigger, and I think they may be short-circuiting that. What do you?
No, I completely agree. My first two churches were very similar, ended up in size. My first church ended up, when I left, it's about 80 people or so. The one I went to, Thompson Baptist Church in the Mid-County, was about the same size, and they were completely different churches. That they were not alike at all, except the size. But the way I was perceived, the way that they would follow leadership, the way the church saw itself in relation to the pastor, it won't be necessarily the size as so much as it will be the church. And man, if you can stay there, if you can get in a church and stay there and invest your life and not look over the fence, which is very difficult to do, especially with social media, because you see everybody is shinier and happier and have more people at their church than you.
Yeah.
If you can keep from looking over there and coveting, then that's going to save you a whole lot of heartache and give you a lot of joy in the ministry.
Yeah, that's a good word. I appreciate that so much. So you were at your first church for, what'd you say, 2 years? The next 2, 3?
About 3 years. Both of those churches were 3 years. They were my seminary churches.
Yeah.
I graduated seminary in 97, and I left that second church in 99.
Where'd you head after that, brother?
I came to Hickory Grove, and I was on staff here for 5 years as a preaching pastor at this church.
Okay. All right. And then where?
So
I'm sorry.
Then I left there. I came here in 99. From 99 to 2004, I was at Hickory Grove, but I was not the senior pastor. I was just preaching pastor. And then in 2004, that's when things had fallen apart at Dolphin Way with Stephen Lawson.
Yeah.
That's a whole other tale. So they were desperate, and they ended up calling me to come there. I went there in 2004 and stayed till 2010. And I came back here in 2010.
All right. Wonderful. So you've been there at Hickory Grove 15 years now.
Yeah, almost 16. January will be 16 years.
And you were at Dolphin Way. Tell me again how long?
6. I was there 6 years. I thought I would retire at Dolphin Way.
Okay. Well, was that a hard decision leaving then?
Yeah, it really was. When we went to Dolphin Way, we were very nervous because it had been through so much. Mm-hmm. And just by the Lord's kindness, the church turned around pretty quickly. And about 3.5, 4 years in, man, I really felt like we love Mobile. We love that part of the world. Connie was happy. The boys were flourishing. The church was going well. I felt like this is where I would be. And when we ended up coming back here, it was a strange turn. It was very difficult to leave Dolphin Way. And I feel like all the fun I had there for 6 years, I've been earning every bit of that here for the last 15.
Okay. How much of that you want to talk about?
As much as you want.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Let's back up just a little bit.
All right.
This podcast, I hopefully started our church, but I hope some people beyond Arab, Alabama will catch on to it. You came to Dolphin Way after it was a split, really, is what it was.
Yeah, it was a several-year decline, about 6 or 7 years worth of decline. And then at the very end, it was a kind of a collapse. Almost 500 people left and went and started another church.
Yeah.
And left around 250 there to kind of pick up the pieces. And it was that 250 that called me to come there.
Wow. And historically, just for those that may be listening, Dolphin Way was a flagship church for the state of Alabama.
Yeah, Dolphin Way had been a long-term. If you look at a map of the South, you have First Baptist Dallas, First Baptist Jacksonville, and Dolphin Way. In the middle were three of the early adopters, the church growth methods, and it worked.
Yeah.
And Dolphin Way became a flagship church for Alabama, and then in the convention itself, probably you hear names like Jerry Vines, he was there, and some other kind of SBC luminaries came through, and when it fell, it was a pretty public fall.
Yeah. Tell me about getting there. It's down to 250. Probably a lot of grief, some anxiety about the future. And
a lot of times when a church does that, they'll overcompensate if they feel like they've been wronged by a pastor. So Dolphin Way overcompensated with the Constitution and bylaws and put strictures on a church that make it difficult for a pastor to provide some good leadership. So you got to be patient. If you go to a church that's gone through a hard time, you're just going to have to be patient for a little while.
Yeah,
it'll play out if you'll stay there. It'd be worth it. But so we try to be patient, and just by the Lord's kindness, people started joining.
Yeah,
I think there was a lot of folks had left Dolphin Way and were going nowhere. They started coming back, and once you do that and get a sort of a critical mass, you can start doing some things, and we were able to do that, refurbish everything, get it fully staffed. And, when we left, things were going really well. We loved it.
Good.
I hated to leave. I love the way it looked. I love the inside of that church. I love that seafoam green.
Yeah.
I love the people. I liked that we had so many older people. I don't know, man. It was just a great church.
Now, let me ask you this. Not just loving people, not just being patient after hurt, but I'm going to try to, well, let me just say, don't you also think somebody devoted to expositional preaching lends itself to not only healing, but also growing a church?
Oh, I do. I do think that that becomes, it becomes the old analogy of getting the right nutrients in the patient. And once the patient gets accustomed to that level of nutrients coming at him, that he's going to respond well. And over the course of time, you'll build some muscle and have, a great structure there. And the same is true with the church, that over the course of time, a steady diet of intentional, enthusiastic, non-boring, expositional preaching is really going to create an effect in the church.
Well, I still have friends in Mobile. I'm down there for some meetings during the year, and I still hear wonderful reports of how faithful your preaching was, and it made a difference in that city. It made a difference.
I appreciate that.
Well, no, I'm telling you, there were some lives impacted that are now in Christian leadership in that area, in the church, at the University of Mobile, and so you're to be commended for that. Now, the difficult decision, if there's some young ministers listening to this, walk me through. How did you discern the will of the Lord to go back to Hickory Grove? Things were going well. Why in the world?
Yeah, I think I've always tried to make the decision based on a cultivated burden for the proposed place of ministry. Like, I haven't really operated with a resume. When I went the Dolphin way, it was a real sense of burden when I walked around and saw how bad things were. The same was true coming back to Hickory Grove. I knew that the church here had been through a good bit and a different kind of good bit. And I had a real burden for my home church. I felt the real indebtedness to this church for my high school years here. And man, when the opportunity presented itself, I felt like this was of the Lord. And and with that, if you believe enough in the sovereignty of God, you make a decision and just move forward with it and trust that the Lord is in it. And if not, He'll change course.
Sure.
Yeah.
And you're almost 16 years in. And
January will be 16 years. Yep.
Man, you're to be commended. Long tenure makes a big difference in church health.
It really does. It makes a big difference in almost everything. If you stay at a place for a while, they learn you, and you learn them, and they learn that if you say something from the pulpit that is off, they're going to say, "That's just kind of the way he is." They trust and know you.
Yeah.
And if they know that you love them, like if you really do love this group of people, then you can do and say just about anything.
Yeah. There's the old adage that it takes you 5 years to become the pastor. Do you agree with that?
Every bit.
Yeah.
Oh, every bit of that.
And then 5 years.
In fact, I would say 5 years, you really start then sort of to get into your stride.
Yeah. 5 years forward then, you're really at your peak effectiveness. And so you're in that season.
Right.
Tell me some good things about Hickory Grove. What's going on that you're excited about?
We've seen a bit of a revolution here at Hickory Grove. Hickory Grove was another one of the church growth movement churches that adopted all of the sort of externals, attractional things to do. And it worked as long as it works. That's the problem with pragmatism, is that it works until it doesn't. And that our church had kind of felt some of that. And it was in the waning years of that pragmatism getting sort of yellowed around the edges when we came back. So our desire was to take it from the old kind of cruise ship to the battleship kind of model, to take it from a pragmatist to a missional approach, and to do so theologically with some expositional preaching and long-term discipleship. And so that was kind of the course we set for the church and the school. And in order to do that, you got to be all right with operating in the red for a little while.
Okay.
You just got to be all right. Now the danger there is if you operate it in it too long, you're going to kill the thing, and you're going to be the chaplain to put it in the ground.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure where you draw the line, but I knew that to make the necessary changes, we would have to deal with a deficit, and if we started taking membership seriously, that you have to live with that for a little while. But you got to keep a constant gauge on it. You got to stay right there in the middle of the threshold of how much change can the church tolerate without you doing long-term damage. And I think that takes a whole lot of monitoring almost everything that's going on. So providing that sort of change, we tried to do that over the course of time. And over the course of several years, just by the Lord's kindness, He sustained our church, and we were able to think of refitting if a ship comes into dry dock and gets refitted,
yes,
goes back out. We felt as if we were trying to refit at sea, and so you got to do it and not sink the thing. And just by the Lord's kindness, we're able to do that, and we're reaping some of those benefits and fruits now. Our church is a diverse church in an urban part of Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
Our school is very diverse, and we've seen that not be a terrible issue. Our church has gained a real heart for missions and taking discipleship seriously, and I've been very thankful for that.
That's wonderful.
And we've seen now, the school and the church work together, pointing the people around Hickory Grove to Christ.
Yeah, that's great. Tell me, y'all are multi-campus now, right?
So we're not really multi-campus.
Okay, forgive me.
Yeah.
Set me straight on that.
Okay. So in 1995, back when the prevailing wisdom in church growth was build a building out where everybody is moving.
Yes. Okay.
So everybody was moving north of town here in Charlotte, and they had 88 acres that they came, that actually were given to the church. They decided to build the church there with the understanding that it would probably move there. So in 1995, before multi-campus even became a word in church world, we had a congregation meeting there and then one staying here.
Okay.
And over the course of time, that congregation up in the north continued to grow while this one stabilized. They were afraid this one would, that the main campus would be shrinking, but they actually both were still doing pretty good. And so we ended up with two campuses.
Yeah.
That I preach at both of them.
Okay.
I'll do an 8 o'clock at the main campus, then I'll do a 10 o'clock at the north, and then do an 11 o'clock back at the main.
Okay. Wonderful. Wonderful. How long you been doing 3 services? Or you're preaching 3 times on Sunday. How long?
My first 5 years, I was doing 5 services.
Okay.
I was preaching 5 times, and then the last 10 years, I've been doing just 3.
So do you prefer 3 or 5?
3 all day long.
Yeah.
5's terrible. Like I was bleary-eyed for 2 days after that. No, it's terrible. It's a dumb thing to do.
Yeah.
But it was the only choice I had at the time. But yeah, it's terrible.
5, and you're going back and forth every time, right?
I was doing an 8 o'clock, and then an 8:45, and then a 9:15, then 10:15, then 11 o'clock.
Wow. Bless you, brother. I'm glad you're down to 3.
Yeah, me too.
So let me just summarize and then ask you to reflect on a couple of things, if I may.
Okay.
You've shared with us about seminary churches. You've shared with us about being a staff member. You've shared with us about being a senior pastor. You've been at all size churches. And so give me, if you can think of 2 of the biggest joys of being a pastor. Could you think of a couple, regardless of size, regardless of location, just in general as a pastor?
Yeah, I think I'm learning some of the long-term joys of seeing children grow up that you had a hand in, even if a small part, in seeing them discipled and then doing their weddings and seeing their families.
Yeah.
That's kind of the stage in life I'm in. Some of the joy of actually going back at old sermons and seeing how terrible they are.
Sure.
Thanking the Lord you're not as bad a preacher as you used to be.
Yeah.
Even if you're not any good right now, you're not as bad as you were.
There you go.
That's been a good thing. And then, I'm going back to preach at my second church for Christmas. That's a cool thing to go back to that church that was so good to me when I was so young. And they've asked me to come and preach at Thompson Baptist Church in Mid-County, Mississippi. So some of those joys of long-term ministry, looking back over that, has been a gift.
Amen. Could you summarize, 2 or 3 big challenges just that you've learned in your years of pastoring various size churches and different locations? What's a struggle that's always going to be a struggle as a pastor?
Yeah, I think it always on a Monday, it never feels like you're ever going to get the job done. And there never feels like you have built capital into the hearts of and minds of people in the church, that it always feels like a zero sum.
Yeah.
Like regardless of the church you're at and how long you're there, you're going to have people leave that you never dreamed would leave after you did their grandmother's funeral. You stood with them during terrible surgeries. You walked with them through depression.
Yeah. And
then you decided that you wanted to put a door where they didn't want a door, and they're going to leave.
Yeah.
Oh, and it doesn't feel like they received all of those years of investment, like it didn't amount to anything. So that's going to be the truth wherever you are, whatever church you're at. And you combat that with your own time with the Lord, with your own seeking to honor God with your life and knowing that what you're doing is for the Lord and to do it faithfully. And it helps to have your own group of guys that you either are discipling personally or that are investing in you.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. I've mentioned to you that we are seeking as a state convention to give emphasis to calling out the called. And so you have hit on this, but let me just go back and maybe for just 5 minutes or so, with those young ministers in mind, general suggestions that you would make. So for you, seminary, that would be a yes. Tell me why you found that to be helpful.
Because, every guy that wants to be a preacher loves Jesus and loves the Bible and loves people. He just don't know what to do, how to get them all in the same little space. Mm-hmm. And seminary teaches you what to do with the Bible that is fueled by your affection for God and for people, and then how to actually structure a message so that you're taking the truth of the Bible to the people of God. So you need seminary. You want to be trained. The other is it also teaches you how to create lifelong habits when it comes to managing your time. It's always going to feel like you don't have enough time.
Right.
So being in seminary and in the ministry at the same time teaches you to live in two worlds, teaches you to make choices, make decisions on what you have to do and what you might be able to not do, teaches you to not have to have as much sleep, teaches you to build some significant disciplines into your life that'll serve you the rest of your life.
That's great. Recently on Twitter/X, I believe you put out in the last week or so, and I didn't pull this up, but it just came to mind. Get up early, spend enough time in the Bible, exercise, lift weights. You lift weights. You said something else. Put in a hard day's work, maybe come home, read an hour at night, get to bed at a decent hour. Is that decent summary?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay. And you practice those disciplines. You're up early, you're in the Word, you work out.
Yeah, in fact, I'm looking at it now. Yeah, that's what I do. I think it said something like drink a lot of water and eat meat sort of thing.
There you go.
But yeah, so every day is a 5 o'clock day, 5 a.m. morning, except for Sundays at 4 a.m. and Saturday, don't set an alarm.
Good.
Try to go to bed by 10:30 each night. And I don't beat the alarm wakes me up every single day. Like I could keep sleeping every single day. Start the day with, a pot of coffee and just like every other Christian minister worth his salt, reading the Bible and asking God to help me. Go do something strenuous for a little bit, some sort of workout. Then go to work hard, love your family, just the simple disciplines. Come home, try to eat pretty good, and go to bed at a reasonable hour. I read, biography and history helps me because most of the time you're reading a biography or history, you're reading somebody that's had a way worse life than you and made it through. You know what I'm saying?
That's
you're like,
good, yeah.
If that guy can do it, I can do it. So it becomes inspirational a lot of times.
Absolutely.
Can I ask a question about that?
Please.
You and I were chatting the other day, Jamie. So I'm naturally a night person, and I lived in Italy. It's just a late night culture, but our girls have to get up at 6 a.m. for school. So I've been trying to wake up before them.
Sure.
And it's hard because I'm not naturally that person. Do you just have to fight through that? Do you just have to get used to it? What do you think?
Yeah, I think especially being a dad, that's probably just the price you're going to pay for the next 10 to 12 years. Is if you're naturally, I'm also naturally want to cuss all the time, but I don't do it. I mean, you exercise some self-control. I think there's some things, you just say, yeah, this is how I naturally want to do, but it is an extra measure of discipline where you're saying, all right, this is a sacrifice it's worth making for the girls to see. They're not walking out going to school with dad laid up in the bed like a big turtle. He's up, doing what he needs to do. Yeah. And I think that's just sort of a sacrifice. There come a time down the road, Lord willing, that kids will be grown and gone, and you won't have to do all that as much. That's kind of where I am. I don't have any children at home, so I don't have those kind of demands on my morning that you have. And that's admittedly a different demand.
Yeah, thank you.
Clint, I don't know if I've told you, but I do appreciate when you put up a good book on X. I have gotten several good books from you, so thank you for going ahead.
I quit doing it on X as much because it got so toxic over there. Maybe I'll start doing it some more. I appreciate you saying that.
No, I think it's helpful. What's your
You know who does
platform?
that? Thomas Kidd does that. He does a good job with that. Do you follow him?
No, but I'll check it out.
Thomas Kidd. He's Midwestern.
Okay. I visited Midwestern for the first time this year. I was very impressed.
Yeah, it's nice out there.
It really is. The University of Mobile called a president that was a VP out there. And
I know that guy.
Got a little bit more exposure. Let me transition just a little bit, if I could. I sort of broke this up into your personal and your pastoral life. We want to talk now about your public life. You are in a very visible position for Southern Baptist people. I do not want to assume everybody that listens to this podcast is going to understand our Southern Baptist Convention as much as I do. So, serving as Southern Baptist Convention president, can you just briefly tell our listeners, what is that like? What is that? Tell us what you do as president.
Yeah, so it is a good honor. I mean, I'm very thankful for that and consider it a great privilege to not only represent, but to actually get to do this. So what the Southern Baptist president does on paper, he will run the convention meeting, preside over the meeting that we have in June. So that's a big one that he does. He will appoint a few committees, and then he will travel and represent and speak to Southern Baptists and advocate for the cooperative program that funds all the ministries that we do.
And that, I would just let folks know, that is an unpaid position. It is it's a position of honor. It's a position of service. It's not a lucrative position. Is that a fair way to say that?
Oh, man, yeah. I mean, if it is a lucrative, I ain't figured it out. I don't know. I'm doing it wrong. And it'll end up costing your church because, you know, if you're going to go there, your church will be responsible for leading worship for the convention.
Sure.
And a good bit of other things that you just didn't think about.
And let me say, I don't know that we've probably texted a few times. I thought you handled the SBC meeting exceptionally well this past year, so thank you for that. You were winsome in that, but you were also direct, and I think you did some things that were very, very well handled, very fair. So thank you for that.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Can you tell me though? You're a year plus in, so you're into your second term. What has been the greatest enjoyment? What's been the highlight that you were just shocked that you got to enjoy so much?
I think you get to go and see some of the entities that we support, all of our 6 seminaries and the mission boards. And you meet some of the guys that are providing leadership at these entities, and they are guys that, I mean, they absolutely believe in the mission. They're working hard. They love being Southern Baptist. They love the gospel. They want to see people won to Christ. That it's a great thing to know the closer you get to some of the leaders, the better they are.
Yeah.
Sometimes our leaders, the closer you get, you find out, oh gosh, he's a terrible guy. It's just the other way around. It's been my experience with our Southern Baptist leaders.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
I don't know any other way but to say it. What's been a big struggle? What's been a hard part of this?
I think the hard part has been the perception that you get sometimes on social media is not really the reality of what the Southern Baptist Convention as a whole is.
Yeah.
So that it can seem as if you get on X, it can seem as if the whole thing is absolutely on fire.
Yeah.
When in fact it's not. Mm-hmm. That there are some really good things going on. That we had some banner years by way of attendance and baptisms, but some of that gets drowned out by the negativity. Now, I want to be careful and say that sometimes just because somebody's being negative doesn't mean that they're not right. I mean, there are some things that are being said out there that could be very well be the truth, but we want to handle them in a way that is beneficial and honoring to the Lord.
Sure. We, as a church, the Lord's been very good to us. We have seen growth, and we've seen folks come from some different traditions. We've seen folks come from no church background. And so if you were endeavoring to explain the SBC in just a few sentences,
Yeah.
I have a way I describe it. What would you say to someone who doesn't understand the SBC?
I would say that the Southern Baptist Convention is a collection of independent churches that have decided to band together to fund missions and education for the gospel.
Yeah. You hit on one that's very important. A lot of people do not realize Southern Baptist churches are independent, that we're autonomous.
Yeah.
They
Right.
hear about church in news, whether it's the Catholic Church, Methodist Church, and they think everybody's a hierarchy. And really and truly, I tell them, Gillum Springs Baptist Church is Gillum Springs Baptist Church's boss. We do what we want to do. But we have found that, like you said, partnering for missions and education is a worthy endeavor.
Yep.
Yeah. Let me ask you just a few things. Do you mind?
No, go ahead.
There are, as you said, there can be controversy, and I'm like you.
Yeah.
If you do look at social media beginning about March or April, you would think that the Southern Baptist Convention is collapsing, and then you get to the convention and we're all together. But there are a couple of things perhaps on people's minds, and so I don't want to camp out here. But lately, there's been a lot of conversation about some of the legal challenges that we have, and if I understand from Jeff George and things that he has said, those are beginning to decline, and we're hopeful to see some of them brought to a resolution before too long. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, that's a fair assessment. That the lawsuits that we have been a part of are not because of anything other than indemnification.
Right.
That we are having to pay for guideposts that we have indemnified. Yes. They're being sued, and we are actually paying for their. So when that is done, we can get that done hopefully in 2026. Then we can put that behind us and get over the big hump and get back to what we're actually good at.
That's wonderful. ERLC is an entity that's often in the news among SBC, and as it happens, it is currently without an elected leader. They have an interim who has Alabama ties, think a lot of him. But tell us about the ERLC. Could you speculate why you think there's been conflict? What do you think is a good path forward for that entity?
Yeah, I'm not sure what the best path forward is. It came pretty close. I mean, twice being voted to be dissolved.
Yeah,
man, that's not very good. If you have that get as close as it has, none of us here would go to a church that gives us that kind of vote.
Right.
So that's an indication that the convention, which as a convention, we don't like to shut things down. I mean, Southern Baptists, for the most part, are pretty happy people and don't want to be mean. So to have the convention vote like that is a pretty good indication there's a problem. Where and when that started to be a problem, it's hard to speculate. We came out of all the CRT stuff and COVID and contentious elections. It wasn't helpful.
Sure.
And I think at some point the ERLC started sounding like it was speaking to and not for, and then it became confusing. Is the ERLC sort of a wing that advocates for the convention, or is it a group of people that are trying to direct the convention? And once you sort of have that kind of feeling of liberalism or feels leftward, it's hard to get that back. And that's where it started going. And after the bad vote that had twice, and now with his former president has resigned after there's been lots of calls for him to, Gary's a great interim.
Sure.
I think the world love him. I'm not sure what the direction will be, if it will become something that becomes, an arm of the EC? Will it be dissolved? I'm really not sure.
Okay, that's fair.
They're going to have a hard time, I think, finding a really strong leader for the RLC.
Yeah. Another issue that's a hot topic for some has been the law amendment, or the topic of female pastors in general. What thoughts do you have on that?
Well, I was an early adopter of the law amendment when it first came out years ago.
Yeah.
It made perfect sense to me. I was like, yeah, that sounds good. I'll gladly sign it.
Right.
So I signed it before I even dreamed that it would actually be an issue. I was a little naive about the convention itself because I thought that in order to be a Southern Baptist church, you gave to the convention and you checked off on the Baptist faith and message.
Right.
And that's not exactly the case. You have to have a confession that is similar to.
Yeah.
And that gave a pretty good little loophole for those that might have people on staff that are female and called pastor. So the law amendment gave the Credentials Committee I think, more clarity to make those decisions so that they wouldn't be so subjective depending on who's on the Credentials Committee.
Mm-hmm.
You had some more clear guidelines. It didn't pass. It did the first time, didn't have the requisite twice. The vote wasn't enough for the majority, and so it did not pass. The good thing is that the Baptist faith and message is very clear. So we have the document. The law amendment, in my estimation, would have just clarified, but the BF&M is itself very clear and read and understood in a fair-minded way. It clearly prohibits female pastors.
I'm not as well versed on this as I should be, but I'm going to speculate. I would imagine some people have suggested that you named a committee to revisit the Baptist faith and message. It's been 25 years. Have you faced those pressures?
Oh man, oh yeah, Jim. I've had you can't imagine the number of suggestions I have had when it comes to task force and committees that I should name for any number of things, including revisiting the law amendment, but also the Baptist faith and message.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I said it publicly or privately, but you've done a great job. You have seemingly tamped down controversy, and I'm grateful for that as a local church pastor.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, I think you've done a great job, and I know.
Well, I appreciate that.
Listen, a lot of people pray for you. I pray for you. I appreciate you. You've got a wonderful story of faithfulness, hearing God's call not only to salvation but to service, and I'm just grateful for you. You have been so kind with your time. We're approaching an hour, and I feel like I've dominated. You and Jake have a much better relationship. Y'all know each other a lot better, and I have dominated, brother.
I was just the 18-year-old.
That's all right. I ain't seen Jake in all these years, and he looks exactly the same.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Well, I think that I leave that up for the reader to understand.
I was just I was telling Jamie about you tried to change the way I dress and all that, but it didn't stick.
Man, you can't believe some of the junk he would drag up in. You're right, it didn't stick. You went off as a missionary, and then you can't make fun of missionaries if you're a Baptist. So here you are.
That's right.
Yeah, it was all thanks to you though. You were my pastor during those formative years of college for sure. That was you were talking about you got to Dauphin Way and it started getting really good in year 4. That's right when I arrived. So
there you go.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
He made you look good, which is what he's doing for me now. So
yeah,
amen.
Right.
Amen to that.
Yeah, right.
Well, Clint, before we just say amen, so long, farewell, would you mind just sharing with us a couple of prayer concerns we could keep before the Lord for you particularly?
Yeah, man. Personally, pray for, as you think of it, for me and Connie as we try to do the right thing with her parents in the days ahead. So that would be great. And then when it comes to SBC stuff, pray that I don't do anything that's going to embarrass us. and that we can continue not just to tamp down controversy, but to handle it well. I don't want to ignore problems that need to be addressed.
Yes.
But I want to make sure that I rightly address the things that I can, and not just say something to say it.
Okay, that's fair. Would you be okay if I prayed for you now?
Man, I would appreciate it.
All right. Father, we thank you for Clint. We thank you for his faithful service to you through your church and through this collection of churches we know as the SBC. We pray for him personally, Lord, as he and Connie navigate these days of difficulties with her parents. Grant them great wisdom and energy, stamina. I know Connie's making trips back and forth to Mississippi. So, Lord, just be kind to those parents in these years and grant them good wisdom to know how best to help them. And I pray for Clint as he faithfully serves Hickory Grove as a pastor that faithfully preaches your word, but also as president of this convention, Lord, that as he so clearly says, he doesn't want to do anything that embarrasses us. And so, Father, I pray you'd give him wisdom to know when to speak and when to be silent. And when he speaks, Lord, give him your wisdom and your words. And we'll just thank you. And, Lord, I would pray for the greater convention that you would find us faithful, busy about the things that matter as we seek to share the gospel around this world, around this nation. And we pray for an outpouring of your Spirit, for an awakening in this nation, revival in the church. And, Father, we'll do that for Jesus and look forward to all he does as we seek to bring glory to him. We thank you in his name. Amen.